All right, welcome everybody to another DoneJS Hangout. We're going to talk about statuses and then any topics people want to bring up to discuss. For my status, this week I've mostly been working on the to-do MVC guides. I've had a bunch of other things to take care of this week as well, and helping a lot of other people with things, but we're getting very close to having a 3.0 release out. I'm hoping by the end of next week we can actually say this is like a 3.0. So that's what I'm working towards. I think the website and everything like that will come after, but we should be able to get I think a full release out next week. So let's go. Let's do that. Let's do what we did a while ago. Let's go from west to east this time.
I think that'd be me.
I think that is you, and I will get my map of the United States.
I'm pretty sure, unless, well, Seattle is further east too, so.
Anybody more?
Anybody in Alaska?
Anybody in Alaska?
The ocean.
Hawaii? Okay, so I worked this week on testing infrastructure. Yesterday, I fixed some tests for CanJS 2.3 that were failing, which actually also fixed, I worked with some other people yesterday and the day before yesterday that also fixed a couple of other issues they were having. Basically, now you can install Phantom.js locally. So you just npm install Phantom as a dependency of your project, and you get the newest version, not the one that your operating system provides, and it'll try and run the tests on that one. First, that fixed a lot of tests and a lot of issues. Besides that, I made a new CanJS release, 2.3.27, which had some of the backported changes from 3.0, so I think the most important ones. And then today I'm gonna finish. It looks like everything is running on IE9 as well now, so we can run our tests on IE9. What I want to finish today is the test timeout thing to get better reporting, and just make a pull request with IE 9 to 11 and all modern browsers running on BrowserStack. They're only going to run 2 at a time right now, so it's going to be a little slow, but I think it's going to be a lot better to make sure that all our tests are running everywhere. So I'm hoping to have that done today, at the latest on Monday.
Awesome.
I don't have anything to show, unfortunately, but yeah, that's it.
Cool. Thanks, David. I think next west might actually be Kevin. Garrett, where are you?
I'm on the East Coast, Greensboro.
Yeah. So I think actually Kevin is more west than Jonathan. So Kevin, you're like Arlington Heights or something, or where?
Westmont, so like wherever Downers Grove is on your map, basically.
Right here.
Yeah.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, nobody in the middle of the country. Yeah, so I'll go next. I've been working on can route stuff. So here I can share my screen. So the first thing that I was working on is making can route support route templates using curly braces so that it matches can picture and all of the other places. So now you can define your routes like this. You can see it's working over here. And then the other thing I did is I added a warning. If you're using the old colon syntax, then you'll get this warning that says update route page to page. And then I also added a warning when you have 2 routes that use the same map keys. So since I had, this doesn't really make sense, but if you had, say, a route that has a page and then sets the default value for section, And you'll get this warning that says you've got 2 routes that are registered with the same keys. The first one is this one, and the second one is this one, and it'll tell you that the second route is always going to be chosen since it was the first one that was registered. So hopefully that makes sense.
Awesome.
And then the last thing that I'm doing is documenting this, how we choose what routes are matched. So I'm still kind of working on this, finalizing this the wording, so this makes sense.
Hey Kevin, can you show that the error? Yeah, wasn't 2 was registered last? You mean not registered first?
No, 2 was registered first. Sorry, so it's this
Before
route and this
before
route.
that one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so those are the 2 that match.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe switch those just because I get what Matthew's saying is that the number 2 is registered first, but it's listed second.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking it was 1 and 2 that it was comparing, but it was comparing the other 2.
I can switch the order if you want. It's basically what it's doing right now is the first one. It's throwing this warning when this route gets registered.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I can change the order if that would make it more clear.
Yeah, I think it would. It's a little because you see 2 is in first. It just throws people for a little mental loop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. That's it.
Great. So I think next, Jonathan. I guess I just for fun.
I think it's me and then you because you're in close to
Where-
Lincoln Square, right?
I think it's what street are you?
I'm on Drake.
No, like North-South Street, like big North-South Street. What are you close to?
Kimball.
Oh, Kimball. Then you're right before me. Then so you're.
Do you want to give the internet your address so they can stop by?
Right.
Yeah, Kimball's somewhere in here. I'm California. Kimball is, I think, it's just a little west of that.
Yeah. It's right across the river. It looks like. Anyway. It should be just to the west of Kedzie. Oh, I see it. We're not on screen here, so I can't show you.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, you're pretty close to it, though.
Somewhere in here, yeah. Oh, here it is. Here we go.
Yep.
Here around here. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So, let's see. I started this week on client work, but then so dealt with an issue where can connect, get data, and get list. We're not always returning a proper promise. Sometimes they would return a jQuery deferred. And so in working on that, we decided to add a new utility, some new stuff to can utility. So is promise in can utility now is it functions a bit differently. So we made an is promise like that just returns whether an object is a thenable object, whether it has a then method. And then is promise now actually will more thoroughly check and return only if it's an instance of a promise, whether that be native or Steele's promise that it pulls in. And there's also a make promise method in CanUtil now that will take a promise-like object and convert it into a proper promise. So that's about it from me.
Awesome. I guess one other thing that I would like to share about my status that I forgot to mention was I added kind of, I don't know if calling it diffing is the right thing, but you can highlight. We've already done this for DoneJS where you can highlight certain lines, and then I made it so it will collapse things that are not highlighted. So this makes the guide much easier to follow through, because if you start expanding all of the parts that the person really doesn't see, especially towards the end, it gets rather big. But it still allows someone who's just like, okay, I'm totally lost. I really don't know what to do. Okay, I'm just going to copy and paste the whole code so they can always get to the right spot. So I'm happy with that. And this is about where I am a little tiny bit more east off of like California, like somewhere right in here. I'm like right in here. Actually, right around here. All right, so next we gotta zoom back out here. I think it's gonna be where actually I'm not. Andrew, you're in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, Ann Arbor.
I think it's probably Matthew in Louisville.
Yay, me.
Everybody post your longitudes. We must be exact.
All right. Well, I've been working on various binding things related to bindings, which are pretty cool. Basically, we had all these old things that the old binding syntax can values that it kind of fixed and made all the different types of inputs that you might want to bind to and kind of work through various quirks and stuff. Whereas the new binding syntax are more generic and more broad, and they're more applicable to different, you can bind to anything you want, basically. So I've been working to make sure that everything that was possible in can value is possible in the new binding syntaxes, and making them so where that was not the case. So I have a little demonstration. One thing I've been working on is like a input focus. So I have a little demo here. I have an input, which is this input, and it's bind to a focused property on the input. Now there is no focused property on an input. This is kind of like a pseudo property. So now we can support like pseudo properties on elements. So anytime we like have scenarios like this where we're like, well, it would be really cool if you could do this. And actually, any developer can add to this as well, so we have kind of these special properties. But anyways, this is two-way bound to the in-focus property on my view model, which is the Boolean. So anytime this becomes true, it's going to cause the input to have focus. Anytime it becomes false, it would cause input to blur. And then here I have this wrapper div, which is this gray area. And it has a click event handler, and all that handler does is set in focus to true. So this just provides a way so I can click on this gray area, which should cause the input to focus. And then lastly, down here, I'm just displaying what the current status is of the focus. So as you can see, I can just click like way over here, and now my input has focus. Focus is true. If I like tab out of it, focus becomes false. I can tab into it. All that stuff still works, but I can also click around and whatnot. So that's like one of the types of things I'm working on, is to provide these special properties. Another one is called values for multi-selects. I won't go all the way through this, but multi-selects are very weird. And what you really want is you want to bind to like all of the selected values of a multi-select, and values provides that. It allows you to bind a list to all of the selected items. So I'm actually, for the most part, done with this. I have some other binding bugs that were assigned to me that I need to get through.
And this was, oh, I think he just hit the wrong button. I saw him hit leave call. All right, well, I assume he'll be back pretty soon. Hey.
Sorry, I pressed the hang up button instead of the stop sharing the screen button.
Yeah, I noticed that. Pretty funny.
But I didn't have anything else to say. Yeah.
Cool. And this is all going to be in its own. This is going to be in its own module or own package, right?
Now there's a can stash converters package, which has like some different converters things that I've been working on. However, stuff like values and focus, that's not there's no converter there. It's just provided, with the normal binding syntaxes. So right now, all this stuff is documented in converters. I'll probably move kind of these use cases. I'm not sure, maybe to the guides section. Seems appropriate.
Cool. All right, anything else?
No.
Awesome. Okay, and then you said you're in Greensboro.
I think I'm next,
so,
actually.
Yeah, you're probably next.
Yeah. Okay, I'll
All
share
right.
share my screen. Okay, so I've been working on the designs that I showed last week, implementing them with styles. I ran into some issues with having a fixed sidebar and this top nav, and making everything be the same size when this sidebar expands. So I created something, tested it yesterday with Justin, and it just didn't work in every browser. So kind of started from scratch. And
well, let's let people know what happened there. That's the crazy thing is that it works. It depends on the operating system. It seemed like.
yeah, so it was working fine in Safari and Chrome on my computer. And then when Justin tried it on his, it got like 3 scroll bars on the right side and 1 here, and then 1 came in on the bottom. It was just really, really wonky. And then we tested it in Browser Stack and the older operating systems was just really, really bad too. So we kind of started over using Flexbox and just created these 2 columns, and then the content here is the module content on the CanJS page, and bringing in the sidebar, and then the top and the right areas here are they're not fixed, but they have a height. So I brought in the content from the CanJS site, and it's pretty close to done now. I'm still working on styling this top navigation right here, and then this CanJS area, but everything else is working. So far it's working in the other browsers on different operating systems. So I hope to have this done in the next few hours.
Cool. Andrew, can you show your can you show what makes this special, I guess, what's hard about this?
Yeah.
The scrolling part?
Yeah, let's see if it'll be easier to show. Actually, I'll show this one. Okay, so we have this top bar up here, but I had to divide. Originally, this was one header that went all the way across, but now we're making this sidebar separate from this top nav because we want to align these items with everything else on this page. So I had to divide it into 2. And when we scroll, this sidebar, we want to be able to scroll, but to stay on the page height 100%. And we want these to stay fixed here. And then on this side, we want this whole area to be height 100%. So to be scrollable. And I was just running into a ton of issues with this sidebar here, and just the fact that it resizes. So it was really difficult to set a position on these when the sidebar expanded and contracted every time you went to a new page.
Horizontally. If you can go back to the other demo, I think it's actually somewhat easier to explain because there's less going on.
Okay.
So like the idea that what we needed was that the left-hand side is going to take up as much horizontal space as possible, right? So like that top left and that column, it's going to be able to adjust its width dynamically. So whatever the content is, it's just going to get as big as it can and shove everything else to the right. Then within each column, we wanted it so that if you the top parts are going to take up their space, but the bottom part is going to really like take up, fill in the remaining window height. So that if, Andrea, if you like make it smaller, you can see the scroll bars start kicking in. Right? Like you can scroll, and then there isn't a scroll on the left until that gets small enough, and you can scroll the left and the right independently. So this is very hard to accomplish, but like impossible without Flexbox. So the way that we did it is essentially like two Flexboxes. Like there's a container that contains everything, and that's 100%. The body has to be 100. Actually, we had to make the HTML 100% height, the body 100% height, and everything pretty much 100% height until it gets to this container. Yeah. And then if you don't stick on the, And then basically, so we have one Flexbox that lays out from left to right. So it'll just lay out the first column as big as it wants and then stretch the right column to fill in the remaining space. Then what we need to do is make it so that the next one kind of does the same thing, but on the vertical dimension. It's going to lay out the first column, and it's going to stretch the second column to fill whatever remaining space there is. And the real hard part, at least for us when we were working on it yesterday, was to figure out how to make an element just get 100% height. And you really have to set like the HTML to 100% and the body to 100%. So like it'll actually fill the window, not just like the content provided by the window, like the document. So it was a tricky problem.
Yeah.
There's also the VH, the new VH and VW measurements work for that. You know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
So if you do 100% VH, that's 100% view height.
Oh, you can do view height.
And there's view width as well.
Oh, cool. That would have been that handy. I wonder. I'm betting browser support. It's not as. I'm betting setting your HTML element to 100% height is probably better supported. I'm just guessing because I've heard of that before and not the other thing. That's cool that they're adding that.
Yeah, I think last time I looked, it goes back to like IE9. There's full support for it.
Really?
Just like a lot of things. I'll check on that real quick.
There's some problems with that in IE11. I've run into that before.
That's really interesting. Cool. I'll have to look into that. Anyways, thanks, Andrea. And then last but not least, we have Garrett in Greensboro.
Yep, so I'm just rolling off client work today. So the first issue I have assigned is, I'll share my screen to show you what it is. Entire screen. Okay, so just in CanStash, each is not correctly updating. So you'll see here, outside of each, we just have these, this object on the view model bound here, and this updates fine when you update it inside or after a timeout. So foo is changed to test value, but not within the each. So just working on fixing that.
Cool. Does your demo that you had right there, is that using pre-9?
I think this is...
Go down to raw git at the bottom left, and then you can change that from pre-6 to pre-9 just to make sure you're on the latest.
Okay.
And hopefully it works, and then you're done. But it probably doesn't.
Nope.
Just to check that. Yeah.
Does not work. And I also haven't tested it with define map. This is just map.
Okay. Cool.
So.
Awesome. So topics. I don't know if there's any really topics. I guess I have some suggested ones, which is the new site design, which Andrea posted, but we've we've kind of talked about that. The to-do MVC guide, we could talk about. I don't really know what there's talk about in can route changes. So the data change. Let's quickly, any comments about the new site design? I guess it's not really ready to see yet, but we will.
Looks good.
Yeah. Okay. The to-do MVC guide, let me talk about that. So really the only thing that I wanted to talk about with it, the thing that I had like the most problem was just like, well, actually, there's no real topic here. I think I don't have any good suggestions, and there's no real problem to talk. So I'm gonna skip that one actually. And the can route changes, I think we already talked about. So Kevin, I don't know if you want to talk about that real quick. Just we're gonna probably change data, and just to remind everybody, we're changing how you write routes.
Yeah. So the second thing I talked about a little bit, we're just going to change how routes are written. Instead of using the colon, use the curly syntax that we use other places. We're still going to support the colon syntax, but you'll get that warning for now. And then the other thing is something I haven't done yet, but we're going to update the docs so that instead of calling route.adder, you'll just set the route.data property like you're showing on your screen, Justin.
Instead of route.map. So there's kind of two changes. Instead of route.map, we're app VM, we're going to encourage people to do this. And then I think the other one is instead of route.attr, changing some property. We're going to encourage people to do route.data.foo equals var.
Right. Yeah. So I've got the issue that I wrote and I'm going to work on later today, showing, but it shows those same things. Instead of map, just set the data, and then instead of adder, just set data dot whatever the property is. The one thing that I'm unsure of is sometimes we set route.adder and pass the object. You can't really do that. You can't really overwrite route.data like that.
Sorry, what do you mean? You pass the type, you mean?
No. So if you want to set multiple properties.
Oh, well then you would do route.data depending on what type of VM that is, or what type of map that is. You can do either set or attr here.
On your VM, you mean?
Or you can do it on route.data as well.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to do route.data.
No.
Yeah. So, and I think that's done in the docs. So I'll have to figure out how to change.
It's shown that, like actually setting it to just an object like
it's
that?
shown like this.
Oh, wait. Sorry,
Well, that will still work though, right?
Yeah, it will still work, but
just do data.foo equals var.
Or just route.data.attr.
Just do them both.
I would just do route.data.attr. If you're like, it depends. I mean, if we're pretty much showing people the new ways of doing things, then we should just show them route.data.set.
I wonder if object assign would work. It might actually.
It would, but it wouldn't batch automatically, which I don't think really matters to can route because it uses timeouts to like throttle itself. But you wouldn't get the automatic batching that set does. Anyway,
Yes.
I would just show this then.
So just show
route.data.set.
Or you want to call it, okay, instead of calling it separately?
Yeah, yeah. Because then you get the batching, which is nice as well. And you can set multiple properties.
Okay.
Either way. Cool.
Yeah, those are the changes that I'm going to make in the docs. It doesn't actually change any of the code, I don't think, but we want people to use to actually understand that route.data is what's backing the route.
Cool. Yeah, so actually there was, I remember what I really want to talk about, which was I wanted to talk about what makes CanJS great. I just have a rough outline. So I'm going to have, there's going to be a mission and goals section and a technical highlights, which are kind of, I realize, two different things. For technical highlights, I've just got a just an outline right now that I quickly put together. It's kind of categorized a little bit. So there's like high level things that are just, nice about the framework itself, not any kind of particular parts. There's the benefits of, so like we support, and by the way, I'm going to go through them, but if you come up with other ones that I'm missing or have questions about what these mean, then let me know, or think some are more important than others, let me know, but I want to get everybody thinking about that. So I didn't really rank them in order of importance, just kind of more group them. Supports IE9, that's actually like an accomplishment, I think. Independent projects and pieces, right? It's all split. That's a big thing as well. Small size for what you get, right? I think we're about hopefully we're going to be just under 50K, so we could say like 49, because mentally sounds a lot less. I do the whole 999 thing. But I'll elaborate on exactly what's packed in here, which this kind of does a little bit. MVVM is really nice. I think we need to kind of have that, like, the federated state argument are going to need to supply really powerfully to kind of counteract the prevailing trends of, mutationless functional programming. Because in the end, if you're dealing with data on the server, well, you got state somewhere. It exists, and being able to split up state is really powerful. That's why I actually think I thought about bringing back the ATM example, which I think does a really good job of having, you can have a transaction that has its own state, you can have a card that has its own state, and then you have like an ATM that builds like a whole other type of state on top of it. So it's not just like the ATM has like every single level of state that it has to know about. Instead, you have federated state. Pagination shows that as well. So I'm probably going to add another guide for the ATM just to use that as an argument. And now testable, like easily testable, because you can actually test the behavior of your state easy with MVVM. How we have really good observables that can be kind of object-oriented and functional at the same time. We have batched events. So like not only do we have minimal DOM updates, but like actual data can update minimal times. Like your, computed count only needs to kind of be reevaluated once. That kind of happens automatically. As long as you're batching through things, that will happen no problem. You don't have to list your dependencies. This is kind of in contrast to like Ember's version of computes and a lot of other versions of computes where you have to like explicitly, and even event streams are like this, where you have to explicitly list your dependencies and then also call them in whatever generates the final value. New define maps are compiled, so they're much faster. And I think we just have a nice overall syntax for define map. View model, and then I was like, well, let's talk about what's strong in each kind of part. Well, really, our view models just have all the benefits that are observables, so I don't really know if there's separate benefits. I was thinking about talking more about testing here, really, because that's in some ways its strongest part. Views support nice terse handlebar syntax with one-way, two-way, and event bindings. The new converter stuff will probably be shown off a little bit here. We have custom elements, and we also do the minimal DOM updates. We only need to update what's there. We don't need to do like a whole diff over the entire DOM every time we need to update. We know exactly what to update. The model has a whole bunch of stuff for us. I think that's actually where we're strongest now, like compared to everybody else. That's a really, we have automatic real time, like the whole can set parameter awareness stuff. I like that we're kind of, if you compare it to other model systems, we have a separation between type data, like the type, like we're loading to-dos, but then the connection information and how it's connected is totally different. This is the nice split from can model where those things were coupled. Now those are not. We have our instance and list stores, so like automatic management of state for the same items. That's all set up for you. Fall through caching, or just like you have complete caching. We have relational data now works, and we have web workers are working. And then I'll probably have a section just like, well, there's a bunch of other things that don't like kind of come by default that are really nice technical to haves, like, well, a lot of the DoneJS type things like server-side rendering works. That kind of stuff. Like, oh, maybe some things like, oh, you can actually use some of these things in Node. It'd be nice to add that eventually, is like you can actually render stash in Node relatively easy. But here's what I'm starting with. Any thoughts there?
First thing, are you clicked on your screen so that the somebody was saying the live stream is just showing my face?
Well, that was on purpose. That was on purpose, Kevin. I wanted them to see
my reaction to your list.
Yeah, just think of your face while they think of CanJS.
Not sure that's the best selling point, but you can try.
So yeah, sorry about that. Here, I'll scroll down through it again. I'll just pause on this, and then re-edit this in, or have that person do it.
So my first thought is it's a lot of things. If you had to pitch someone on like the top 3 highlights, what would they be? Not that you need to answer right now, but maybe that's something we should think about.
I think our observables, like just how, I think we have to make the argument about how nice observables are as like a counter argument to non-mutable state, and how I think it's just easier to like the whole modlet approach where everything is self-contained and kind of has its own behavior and it can kind of manage its own state, I think is much, much easier when you have first-class observables, and you kind of need that. You need to have some kind of state representation that widgets can have if you're going to build things that way, and that's just a big part of how we build things. So that needs to be argued. I would say that the next places we're just strongest in general is the model as a whole. Like, I really don't think there's much else out there that can do, especially the real time, is probably I think the ability for it to automatically, we show this in To Do MVC, we show it pretty much everywhere. The fact that you don't have to, when something gets updated, deleted, or created, you don't have to go finding the list to insert that. It just happens automatically for you is, I think super unique and super powerful. So those to me are the big 2. Everything else is like, all right. The thing, my inspiration for this is I think the DoneJS has actually kind of been pretty effective because, yeah, I think we should prioritize, but I think giving people a Rolodex of reasons is not, like the homepage should kind of prioritize, and this should prioritize in terms of its introduction, but I think giving people a huge list of things is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing either. I think it's also nice to have smaller points that you can make in blog posts or whatever.
Oh, for sure.
Meetup talks or whatever it is. Like these are the top couple things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like those 2 are our biggest benefits. And then in some ways, I think the mission and goals is the other biggest benefit, and that's on its side. So like, I think that if I were to rank the order, it's actually our mission and goal, like not a technical, but the fact that we're like the whole longevity thing, that we're going to keep putting out versions that get better and better and better as technology changes. And in some ways, our new ability to have kind of independent projects and pieces further enhances that claim. But that as an idea, that longevity idea, that evolution idea, that is strength number one. And that's why it's kind of in some ways got its own, it's going to have its own section, because that's really the spirit of the project. And then the two biggest technical accomplishments, I think, are the observables and the new connect stuff. That distance, separate ourselves from everybody else. Cool.
Question. If we're going to launch next week-ish,
Well,
place my order guide is not going to be.
What is? Sorry, when I say launch, to be clear, I meant we're gonna make a 3.0 release. We are not. That does not mean we're gonna like write it on the blog. We're gonna migrate the website, all of that stuff.
Well, what's the difference? I mean, you can install the pre-releases already anyway.
Yeah, it's more like saying feature complete. Like it's like a code freeze in some ways. It's like now we're gonna divert our attention. We've said that it's ready. People can start programming against it, but the website isn't really ready. I guess I'm saying that just like we did with 2.3 is I think we can have a release of code, especially for people who are kind of more advanced and like other, people at Bitovi, people who have been itching and already using 3.0, to give them some kind of relief saying, okay, here, this is really, you don't have to worry about us anymore pulling the rug out from under you. You can start using this now, but its site and its presentation isn't final yet. And I think that that's valuable.
Or shouldn't we wait until we have at least one project upgraded and know what the upgrade path will be?
Perhaps. It depends if you think we're going to find a API issue with an upgrade, or we're going to find that's the only concern. If it's just bugs, then I don't really care, because it's fine to put the 3.0 out, but the APIs, are staying the same.
My point was not whether we should release 3.0 or not. Mine was just wondering, like, if we're not going to have placed my order guide, like, you're not expecting that to write that. I assume that would take quite a while, I would guess.
No, I'm not planning on writing that before a 3.0 release. Let me say, like, before a published to NPM 3.0 release. I am planning on having, that's why I put place my order. Yesterday I was writing issues for these. I put it as a P2 to complete, meaning if we don't do that for an actual official, like 100%, like release to the public, I'm okay kind of dropping that and then coming back and filling it in later. Because A, it's huge. B, what I'd rather have us focus on is DoneJS's place my order guide with 3.0. And then that kind of solves that problem. Like, I'll just say, hey, in the beginning we could just say, hey, there's a really good guide that does a whole much more. Just look at DoneJS. And then we can fill in the more details.
We should have the setting up guide. We should have that for the big launch.
Oh, definitely for launch. The TuneIn chat guide for launch, the homepage, all of these, pretty much everything else, I think, should be fully ready to go for official launch. But I don't think official launch needs to happen, until we've kind of got our ducks in a row. I don't know, but David, if you feel like, I'm fine not releasing 3.0, a hard 3.0 to NPM. If you fear that APIs are going to have to change, but I'm guessing that that's not going to happen because we've already, not many APIs have changed. We know which ones are there that have. I feel like there'll be bugs, but that's no reason. Like, we can just do patch releases for that. It's just like, what is the chance that we're gonna have to release a 4.0 if we accidentally did a 3.0? I think pretty low, like 5%. I don't know, but we can wait on it then. I think it's wise.
Well, it would just be nice to have an idea on what the upgrade challenges are, because if somebody sees the final version released, they probably want to try and upgrade.
Well, we did. Everybody spent a whole week doing this, so hopefully.
Do we have a document for how to upgrade?
Yep.
Oh.
Matthew wrote this.
Okay.
So,
cool. Yeah, I missed that part.
yeah, you missed that week, so maybe that's why also you feel a little more sketchy on it. Is that everybody else was kind of working on this, and we saw a lot of the problems. Cool. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? All right. Well, good meeting everyone. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you all Monday. Hey, Julian. Oh, do you want to say your status real quick?
I'm on airplane, so very loud here. So we'll skip that next week.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good one. All right, see you, everybody.
All right, see you all.